All right, guys, so I have speculated on potential MLB expansion, but I've never given my big enchilada prediction on what I think MLB should do in terms of growing the game. This expansion prediction would be best case scenario for MLB in terms of cities, their population growth, growing MLB baseball. I think this is best case scenario for baseball. It involves 3 cities. It involves one city losing their team as well. This does not have anything to do with the Athletics. I'm already expecting, the Athletics are going to lose their team, unfortunately, to Vegas. This is more so what happens next, because our focus is going to shift to the Tampa Bay Rays, and that's where I begin. So this is my best case scenario for MLB. Which cities should get an expansion team? What should happen? And unfortunately, I'm going to say, I think for MLB, best case scenario is the Tampa Bay Rays moving to Orlando. You take a look at the Orlando proposal. When it comes down to them versus Tampa Bay or St. Petersburg, wherever it is, number one, the first thing you have to mention, the idea of the Rays building another ballpark right next to Tropicana Field, it's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. They've had this terrible situation with attendance. Some of that is because of Tropicana Field, but some of that is also because of the stadium location in St. Petersburg. There's also another plan in Ybor City, but either way, I just think at this point with the Rays, there's not enough demand. They can stay in Florida. For MLB, in my opinion, the best case scenario is to take the Rays and put them in Orlando. I am not a fan of the Orlando Dreamers name. I actually would go with the Orlando Palms, like palm trees, because I just like palm trees. I like the vibe of it. I don't know, but that's what I would do. You can take a look at the proposal. Very interesting proposal because there's like man-made little ponds right next to the highway, and it is an entire entertainment complex to where the ceiling extends, the translucent see-through ceiling extends past the stadium, and you kind of have like a mall type vibe within the stadium. Very kind of unique thing there. And then you take a look at the population. Orlando is one of the fastest growing cities right now in the United States. They certainly have the population to have an MLB team. They also have the tourism to have one. Think of Las Vegas getting a team. It would be a very similar situation to Orlando, except there would be even more added benefits because you already have a bigger population center in the city. So I would say best case scenario based on population, based on future attendance, it would be the Rays moving to Orlando, Florida. That would be the number one thing. And now let's shift our attention to the 2 expansion cities under this idea, which would be my personal opinion on what I think would be best for MLB. You do have Tampa Bay moving to Orlando. That's the first step. But now when it comes to expansion, let's start on the eastern side of the United States. And we do have a heavyweight battle for one MLB team. It is Charlotte versus Nashville. And in my opinion, I do think Nashville slightly beats out Charlotte, but you could make a lot of arguments that Charlotte should be the spot. The only reason they're not getting talked about as much is because they really don't have a rendering or a true plan when it comes to a new stadium. But they have shown significant interest in a team. But right now, we're going to go with Nashville for an MLB expansion team. It's a city on the rise. It's a city that just got is getting a brand new super stadium for the NFL. My only question is, how is the funding going to work on a new ballpark? I know they have the rendering of the potential Nashville Stars. You can see the retractable roof. It's impressive, but it does look like that could cost around $1.5 billion. You've got to wonder who's paying that, but Nashville just makes so much sense. It's got a big enough population. They've already got the Predators. They've already got the Titans, and now they get an MLB team. That would be the first expansion team, and I would say I'm not opposed to Charlotte getting one, but I do think the Charlotte situation is even more complex because Charlotte is trying to plan a huge $1 billion stadium rebuild for the Carolina Panthers, and I think the money might be pretty hard. It's still going to be hard for Nashville, but they could pull it off if they have the right ownership group. And then when it comes to the second expansion team, there's a lot of talk. Is it going to be Portland? Is it going to be Salt Lake City? Are they going out west? I do have to say, in doing research for this video, I was very impressed with Salt Lake City and their population. They've got more people in that city than you would think. But even with that, I'm not choosing Salt Lake City. I'm not choosing Portland. I am choosing Austin, Texas, which is one of the fastest growing cities. It is the major tech hub in the middle of America. It's not even close. Someone, whether it's the NHL, MLB, NBA, NFL, someone has got to break into this market. They do have an MLS team, but in terms of, this is a city that has so much demand. There's new people moving in. You give them a professional sports team and you are going to reap the rewards in terms of a TV rating, an unbelievable TV deal, a stadium that probably you'd average about $35,000 per night, even with MLB attendance sometimes not being great. I think Austin, Texas and Nashville, Tennessee, and we do have a few stats. I just Googled fastest growing cities. I'll tell you what, San Antonio really surprised me. Maybe we could see a battle between San Antonio and Austin. The reason I would definitely choose Austin over San Antonio, Austin is a lot younger and they are growing faster, although San Antonio is also growing. And then how about this? Charlotte, North Carolina on this list, not Nashville. And then you also do have Orlando, Florida, and that ties into the whole idea where Orlando's got a bigger population, more tourism, more foot traffic. That's why I think Tampa Bay going to Orlando makes the most sense there. 20 fastest growing U.S. metro areas. Austin, Texas, by far number one. Raleigh, North Carolina, and then you have Orlando, Florida. You can see Nashville, Tennessee also on that list. Charlotte, North Carolina on that list. There's Las Vegas. They're getting an MLB team. And then you also do have Salt Lake City with no Portland. So right now, if you're asking me to choose Salt Lake City or Portland, I am definitely choosing Salt Lake City over Portland when it comes to if they actually want to go out west, in my opinion. But I will say, best case scenario, if you want to grow Major League Baseball and you want to be realistic about it, because people are going to say, well, you should include Mexico, you should include a team in Puerto Rico. It's just not realistic at this point. Mexico City dealing with the crazy altitude. It's not going to be competitive baseball. Every game's going to be 15-13. It's Coors Field on steroids, literally. And then Puerto Rico, it's just too far of a ride. I don't think they have the infrastructure to support a team. They do have, a passionate group of people there. And Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. I mean, I guess not that it matters because there is an MLB team in Canada. And then there's also going to be people saying, what about Vancouver? What about Montreal? Montreal lost a team. They were averaging 4,000 people per game. I'm sure the novelty of them getting a team back would raise the attendance, but I am very skeptical on them maintaining that attendance. And I also think MLB likes the idea of Canada only having one team because there's going to be just so much support for the Blue Jays. I mean, we've saw it with the fan voting. They have a ton of fans up there. There's no reason to split the fan bases when you could grow MLB a lot better by going to a city like Austin, Texas, going to Orlando, Florida. If you want to have two teams in Florida, the thing with the Marlins, let me tell you, I think the Marlins they might even be in front of the Rays when it comes to teams that would move if they hadn't gotten the new Marlins Park, back just about 10 years ago. The fact that they have that brand new, beautiful super stadium, they're not moving anytime soon, even though their attendance is terrible. And then the other team I would say you kind of got to look at would be the Cleveland Guardians, but, they're getting renovations. They've just had such a problem with attendance. I know it's up a little bit right now for Cleveland, but all of MLB is up. So I do think Cleveland kind of had a period between like 2011 and 2013 before they got that first big renovation to Progressive Field. I think there might have been a thought maybe they're going to move. They've got that ownership situation, very cheap owner, same characteristics as John Fisher, to where they're not spending any money. The team isn't drawing well. The Guardians have a way better stadium than the A's did. Cleveland definitely dodged a bullet when they announced that renovation that they got, and now they're getting another renovation. So that would be my best case scenario for growing MLB baseball. I do think you could make an argument for Charlotte over Nashville. It's really a 1A, 1B situation, but when you're talking about the second expansion team, to me, it's got to be Austin, Texas. It's just such an unbelievable market. Imagine the MLB owning Austin, and there's no other professional sports team. It's too good to be true. The TV money would be ridiculous. You could also consider San Antonio because they've got a good population, but Austin is clearly in front of them. And then when it comes to the relocation, I do think with the Rays, anytime you relocate a team, it's very hard, and especially when you're dealing with a bad stadium, because the Rays have a bad stadium and they have a bad location. They might be able to swing it and say, oh, we're moving back into the Tampa area with a brand new stadium. That's going to bump the attendance up, and it probably will, but like that whole idea of building your stadium right next to Tropicana Field, it just makes no sense, and I don't think it's going to happen. That's why I think the other option that's kind of been speculated, the Ybor City option by the little inlet, that makes a lot more sense. But guys, that is just, in my opinion, the best case scenario for MLB. You're giving Austin, Texas a team. That's a major market. You're giving Orlando, Florida a team. That's a major market. And you're giving Nashville, Tennessee a team. That is an up-and-coming potential major market that's funding a $2.2 billion NFL stadium. So guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.